Okay, so welcome back to my channel. Today I thought of backtracking, like I said in the last video, as far as symptoms that I had prior to when I first started the vlog or vlogging or documenting, whatever you want to call it, of this pregnancy. I had logged a lot of the stuff in my journal, and I have been keeping track ever since then, but I didn't do a video on it. So I was trying to figure out what the best way was for me to kind of like not honor, but kind of take you guys back a little bit. And here's my list. So some of the symptoms that I felt before getting the big fat positive were I was having cramping on and off for 2 weeks. And I think a lot of times we're like, well, cramping obviously is a sign that for me personally that my period's coming, and my period is not at all regular. As I said in my last video, it was very irregular. And so I was just thinking, well, my period's finally coming. It's great, it's finally coming, and the more it comes, I'm thinking it's gonna get regular on its own. So I'd been having the cramps on and off, and they would last like maybe like a few minutes, and then they would go away, but they would pretty much last all day long, and they would get worse at night. And sometimes I would wake up with the period cramps and then end up falling back asleep, but they really were never constant. So I figured they would come and go, and then eventually it was just gonna come, and it was gonna be a full-blown period. And I had felt this before, this same symptom before the year before, and I never actually got a period, and I wasn't actually pregnant. So I was thinking, okay, it's probably the same thing, and maybe my body is just kind of struggling to like kickstart this menstrual cycle. I don't know. So it went on for 2 weeks, and then I was having like a lot of lower back pain. What else did I have? This is a little gross, but obviously we're here for answers. So I started to have like very mucousy like discharge, and that was one of the very unusual things because that never happened to me before. It was just very stretchy, and I mean like really stretchy. You could like stretch down like 6 inches. And I remember calling my husband over, and I was like, please look at this. I know this is gross, but am I like, is this like, this is weird. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. So I got that for, I think about a week before I found out that I was pregnant. So remember, again, as a reference point, I was 6 weeks on the dot when I found out I was pregnant. So at about 5 weeks, I was seeing this discharge. My breasts were tender. I had all the symptoms of a period. Breasts were tender. When I think back at it, other than those symptoms at work, specifically, I was having a really tough time like putting breakfast off. My hunger was so bad. It almost like the hunger pain was the worst hunger pain I've ever felt in my entire life. Like I literally felt as though someone was reaching into my stomach and literally grabbing all of my organs, my intestines, and like squeezing it so hard, like trying to pull it right back out of my body. And it was literally like nauseating. It was like I felt weak, I felt dizzy, I felt faint. I just felt desperate for food. Like it was really, really bad. So I remember that being one of the earliest things. And I remember telling my manager and like some of my coworkers, and I was like, oh my God, I think that my blood sugar's low. And they're like, but are you diabetic? And I'm like, well, no. I was told that I was a pre-diabetic at some point. But I don't take any like medications. I don't I don't monitor my blood sugar at all. So I was starting to feel like maybe like I was no longer pre-diabetic, and I was kind of switching over into the diabetic phase, or the diabetic stage, pre-diabetic to diabetic. So it was like, that was like my worst fear. And I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. Like, this can't be happening. I'm not even 30 yet. So anyways, to make a long story short, that's like the first thing that I can remember as a symptom was like my hunger was out of this world. I don't feel like I ate more. I don't feel like I had a larger appetite at all. I just felt like when I needed to eat, specifically in the morning, like I had to eat. The day before I found out that I was pregnant, oh, that's another thing. I was feeling like a lot of like nausea. So I remember telling like my coworkers as well. I was like, oh my God, I have nausea. I was having nausea every night for the past like year and a half. So it was normal to me that I was nauseous every single night. But I was starting to feel like, okay, is it like I'm going to, again, like, am I going into a diabetic? You know, am I becoming a diabetic? Finally, is type 2 diabetic? Or do I have a gluten allergy? And so I was starting to think it was a gluten allergy. So I kind of started to try to eliminate certain things. And somebody was like, what if it's dairy? So I'm thinking my whole, like my health, I'm thinking health-wise, what am I doing wrong? So I remember the day before that I found out I was pregnant, I was in the car with my husband, and we had gone to, I think, Michael's, the craft store, the arts and craft store, whatever. And I remember we were in the van, or in our van. It's a Sprinter van, not a minivan. Don't worry. So we were in the van, and I remember I was like, I just feel different today. Like, I feel like for the past few days I've just been nauseous all day. Like, it's just a dull nausea all day, and I didn't know if I was hungry or if I was nauseous. That's where it got, I remember it was an isolated thing. It was just at night. Now it's all day. So I'm like, it has to be gluten, or I have to be a diabetic. And I keep going back to this thing. And then I remember finally on that Saturday, it was March 7th, on that Saturday, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go to GNC, I'm gonna get a detox, and I'm gonna do a whole colon cleanse, whatever, all this stuff. I'm gonna detox because I feel like I'm just full of junk. That's what I said. It literally felt like I had gone to, I don't even know, like a corner store or a convenience store or some kind of store where they sell like candy and just junk. Everything's packed full of sugar and carbs. I literally felt like I went to one of those places, like a mini mart or something, and I ate everything that was in that place. And I instantly regretted it. That's what it felt like. I literally felt like I was just like up to here with like junk food. And I just felt like my body was just like complete, like on toxic food overload, whatever you want to call it. And so I remember saying, I was just like, I'm just so sick of this. I'm so sick of feeling like this. I feel like I'm full of junk. I'm going to do a detox. And I said, I just don't know what's wrong with my body. And I remember looking up, and the car in front of us, it was like an SUV or whatever, and I wish I would have taken a picture of it, but it said baby on board. And so I remember, like, I was like, I don't know if I believe in signs, but if signs do exist, that is a sign. And now I do believe in signs, because I literally was like, is that a coincidence? Is that like, I know that I feel like God speaks to people in different ways. So I'm assuming that that's the way he spoke to me. So I know that that sign specifically was the only reason why I didn't go to GNC and I didn't get the detox, because I said, I think I need to make sure that I'm not pregnant. Fast forward, we went to his aunt's house, and I remember getting super impatient. So his grandmother, I love her to death. She just takes her time with like everything, really. And so this particular day, like any other day, she was taking her time, and she was making a Puerto Rican stew. And I remember we got there and I was like, okay, so it's not done yet and I'm really hungry. And it just hit me suddenly and I was like, well, I mean, like the stew, like the broth was done. She had like vegetables in there and stuff, but she had one of the ingredients that she hadn't added in there yet. One of the, not the ingredients, but one of the there's like another vegetable pretty much. But I remember thinking, I was like, oh my God, if she does not hurry up with this food, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. If I wake up in a hospital bed, I will not be surprised. But she went to the bathroom and she said when she came back, she was gonna prepare that vegetable and she was gonna put it in the stew. And so when she made her break to the bathroom, I made my big break. And I went over to my husband and I was like, if you don't get me a bowl right now and give me whatever is in that pot, I'm gonna die. I will die right now. So he got me a bowl and he gave me whatever there was in there. And I ate it and I was like, it just like calmed everything inside of me. And then I lived to tell. After that whole celebration, that was done. And the next day in the morning, I woke up and I was like, okay, time to take the test. He's still sleeping. So either way, I took the test early that morning. And then I found out I was pregnant. I saw the 2 lines and I was like, that's why I feel this way. Well, later on that day when I found out, I didn't feel sick right away, but I feel like my baby was like, oh Mom, so now you know about me, so I can just come with all of my symptoms. And that's exactly what happened. Later on that day, I just felt super tired and all my symptoms started, all of them. And that, my friends, is how and what I felt like before my big fat positive. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It's somewhere here. And a thumbs up if you like this video. And